In this section, we are going to learn how to scale our microservice architecture. So we have designed our current architecture with the microservice architecture and pattern and principles. Now in this section, we will learn how to scale our existing microservice architecture to accommodate millions of requests. So we will learn stateless and stateful application horizontal scaling, and we will learn the scale cube. Before that, let's remember what is scalability and vertical and horizontal scaling. As you know that in the first section, we understand what is scalability and how to make vertical and horizontal scaling. So scalability is the number of requests an application can handle when your business to grow. In order to prevent downtime and reduce latency, we have to scale our resources accordingly. So basically we can scale these resources through a combination of the network bandwidth, CPU and physical memory requirement and hard disk adjustment. But horizontal scaling and vertical scaling both involve adding more resources into our computing infrastructure, but we must decide which is the right for our application. So scaling horizontally and scaling vertically are similar in that they both involve adding more computing resources into infrastructure. There are distinct differences between two in terms of the implementation and performance. So what is the main differences? Horizontal scaling means scaling by adding more machines to your pool of resources, also described as a scaling out, whereas vertical scaling refers to scaling by adding more power, like adding CPU and RAM to an existing machine, also described as a scaling up. So now let's explain these one by one. So what is vertical scaling? Vertical scaling is basically makes the nodes stronger. So if you have one server, make the server stronger with adding more hardware. That means make optimization the hardware that will allow you to handle more requests. Vertical scaling keeps your existing infrastructure but adding more computing power. Your existing code doesn't need to change. You simply need to run the same code on machines with better specifications. Vertical scaling means that adding more resources to a single node and adding additional CPU, RAM and disk to cope with an increasing load. And if you get millions of requests, in that case having one server won't be enough, because even the hardware has maximum capacity limitations. We can say that it is a scalability limits. In this case, we need to do horizontal scaling or scaling out. So what is horizontal scaling? Horizontal scaling basically means splitting the load between different servers. Horizontal scaling simply adds more instances of machines without changing to existing specifications. By scaling out, you can share the processing power and load balancing across multiple machines. Horizontal scaling means adding more machines to the resource pool rather than simply adding resources by scaling vertically. Scaling horizontally gives you scalability but also reliability, because you will have more redundancy and mostly it is the preferred way to scale in distributed architectures. When splitting into multiple servers, that we need to take into consideration if you have a state or not. If your services are stateless, then it is easy and the best practice to scaling horizontally. We can just put the different services and have a load balancer that will split the load traffic to different servers. But when it comes to if you have a state like database servers, then we need to manage more considerations like cap theorem. We will also discuss later that how to scale stateful services in the upcoming sections, but now let's focus on stateless services that are scaling horizontally. In our e-commerce application, we will apply horizontal scaling into our architecture. As you know that in the first sections, we understood what is scalability and how to make vertical and horizontal scaling into our monolithic application. And we applied scaling techniques on the monolithic architecture. You can see the picture. We horizontally scaled our monolithic application server. So now we are going to scale our microservice architecture, which have designed with API gateway and message brokers and microservices. But before that, we should understand some patterns and principles that we should consider when scaling microservices. So we will start with understanding the scale cube. After that, we will talk about stateless and stateful applications and how to horizontally scale them into our microservice architectures.